Oral questions. Questions orales. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Bloc Québécois once again freaked out because I quoted René Lévesque. René Lévesque and Lucien Bouchard were real sovereigntists, but they wouldn't have asked Quebecers to spend $500 billion more for the federal government. They wouldn't have voted to add 100,000 more public servants. They wouldn't have voted to increase taxes on Quebecers. Will the Prime Minister finally finalize the Bloc Liberal coalition? The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker.
Quebecers understand the importance of climate action. They understand the importance of a strong child care system. They understand the importance of a government that can manage its own programs. But the Conservatives only understand one thing: cuts, cuts, cuts. They want to cut programs that Quebecers care about and the public servants who are working hard for them. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. We will cut taxes, Mr. Speaker. It is odd that a so-called sovereigntist party loves sending Quebecers money to Ottawa. They must not care about the sovereignty of Quebecers' wallets, Mr. Speaker. They are voting for taxes. And when we propose to leave money in Quebecers' pockets and let them decide what to do with it, the Bloc Québécois has decided to vote with their boss.
Yeah, drop some happy birthdays down in the chat for Pierre. It's his birthday today.
Freedom to decide what to do with their money and cut taxes. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker. The Quebec nation and Quebecers understand very well the importance of social solidarity. They understand that social solidarity rests on social programs. And that is why we need revenue to build those programs. That is why Éric Girard agrees to raise the rate on capital gains, but the Conservatives disagree because they are against people.
Listen, Mr. Speaker, last week the health minister went into a wacko rant accusing parents who take their kids on a road trip of locking them up in a car for 10 days straight without a washroom break, causing the whole world to burn. All because we proposed that the government take taxes off gas so that Canadians could have a summer break. Will this health minister break into the same hysteria over his boss's use of a gas-guzzling private jet to vacation all around the world?
Yeah, there you go.
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, we face an existential crisis in climate change. The Conservative solution, you'd have to drive. I was wrong, and I admit it. It wasn't 37,000 kilometers. It was 44,000 kilometers to get the benefit that they're talking about. And what they want to do is cut not only dental care, not only cut child care, not only cut pharmacare, but end our climate action and return to the days when the Conservative Party would go into climate conferences and attack the action the world was taking to save our planet. I will stand for climate change, and so will this party, Mr. Speaker.
Wow. They just keep showing how dumb they are.
Speaker, his wacko math gets even worse. He's talking about vacations of 44,000 kilometers. Those are the vacations his boss takes in a taxpayer-funded, fuel-guzzling private jet. The vacations for which Conservatives want to give Canadians a break is to a local campground where they can support the local economy. We know Canadians can't go abroad. All they can do is get in their small vehicle and have a small break. Why won't the government take the tax off so that they can afford to do that?
Wow, he's got them pinned.
Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, it seems that we have, in fact, underestimated the wacko math of the Conservative Party of Canada. According to Sarah Hastings-Simon, an associate professor at the University of Calgary Faculty of Science, and she crunched the numbers, the alleged numbers of the Conservative Party based on the savings, and her calculation, someone would have to drive 44,000 kilometers, not 37,000 kilometers, Mr. Speaker. 44, so you could, in fact, drive from the North Pole to the South Pole and back, and you would have some kilometers left. These are the type of mathematics that these people are doing, Mr. Speaker.
They don't even answer the question.
Speaker, if that particular minister had his way, Canadians wouldn't even be allowed to drive to the grocery store because he wants to abolish roads. He says we should not fund any more roads and then has the audacity to call other people wacko. Most Canadians don't want to put on an orange jumpsuit or climb a building. They just take their kids for a merciful break from this miserable, broken economy. So will the government accept our common sense plan to take the tax off gas and diesel so Canadians can have a summer?
Oh my goodness.
The Honourable Minister for the Environment and Climate Change.
You can't, in fact, drive from the North Pole to the South Pole. There are no roads. I'm sure they'll find ways to blame me for that. Leave alone the fact that there are two oceans. But if you were to drive from Canada's most northern city, accessible by road, Tuktoyaktuk in the Northwest Territories, and then you drove to the most southern city, accessible by road, Tierra del Fuego in Argentina, you would have to drive 16,000 kilometers at an average speed of 100 kilometers an hour without stopping. It would be 60 hours, Mr. Speaker, and you're only halfway to the savings claimed by the Conservative Party of Canada.
These people defend their boss flying around the world in a private jet and go after your everyday Canadian.
For La Prairie.
It's sickening.
Mr. Speaker, the member for Alfred Pellan is putting forward the idea of making English an official language of Quebec. But he's not the first Liberal to suggest that, even though the idea was criticized. Who already suggested this kind of thing in 2016? The Prime Minister. In 2016, he said that the city of Ottawa shouldn't become bilingual because Gatineau on the Quebec side is unilingual. So he was opposed to bilingualism for Franco-Ontarians if Quebec wasn't ready to make English an official language. He had to apologize and say that he'd overstepped. Will he ask the member for Alfred Pellan to do the same thing? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Mr. Speaker, there's a great deal of hypocrisy in what we hear from the Bloc Québécois here. First of all, we brought forward an incredibly ambitious action plan to strengthen the status of French. And yet, the Bloc Québécois voted against it. And then in Budget 2024, we are massively investing to make our official languages really equal. And what did the Bloc Québécois do? It voted against it. Once again. So the Bloc Québécois should at least have the courage of its convictions. The Bloc Québécois should admit that it says one thing and does the exact opposite. The Honourable Member for La Prairie. The Liberals, there's a whole string of problems in their party when it comes to French. For example, the member for Glengarry Prescott Russell thinks that worrying about the decline of French is extremists and full of it. And the member for Mont-Royal said that applying Bill 101 to federally regulated businesses would be a shame. Or the member for Saint Laurent said that Bill 96 would prevent Anglophones from accessing health care. It's nonsense. Why can't the Liberals talk about the French language without this kind of ridiculous discourse? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Well, what's ridiculous is my colleague's question, who voted against the budget, which is investing money to defend English and French, who voted against the official languages plan. And let me just say one thing. Being a sovereigntist doesn't make him more of a Quebecer than the Liberal members for Quebec and even the Conservative members for Quebec. There are Quebecers who are not sovereigntists, who are proud Quebecers, proud Anglophones, proud Francophones, and who will always stand up for Quebec no matter what the Bloc does.
The honourable member from Winnipeg Centre.
Mr. Speaker, it has been 5 years since the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls released its 231 calls for justice. Only 2 are fully implemented.
Jagmeet should be talking. Kind of strange.
Ignore this ongoing genocide. Commissioners who led this inquiry are giving this government a failing grade. Rates of violence are up. Families are left looking for answers. 5 years, Mr. Speaker, and things are getting worse. Will the Liberals stop stalling and implement the calls for justice to save lives now?
The honourable minister for Crown and Indigenous Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, let me thank the member from Winnipeg Centre for her constant advocacy on this issue. Indigenous women, girls, two-spirit and gender diverse people in Canada are 12 times more likely to go missing or be murdered compared to their non-Indigenous counterpart. Urgent action is needed to improve safety, justice, and dismantle systemic racism. Today, we tabled the 2023-2024 Federal Pathway Annual Progress Report, noting funding for 52 community safety projects, 9 safety plans, 47 shelters, and a pilot red dress alert system. Progress includes better health services, expanded internet for over 25,000 Indigenous.
The honourable
Yeah, taking too long. Cut off.
In Strathcona.
Despite promising to do so 3 months ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs has failed to issue a notice to exporters telling them that they cannot sell weapons to Netanyahu's government. As Palestinians are starving, as violence in the West Bank escalates, and as UN experts are calling for the recognition of Palestine, the Liberals won't act to stop a genocide. Peace requires action. Justice requires action. Two-way arms embargo, sanctions on Netanyahu's war cabinet, recognition of Palestine. When will the minister stop with her empty words and take action?
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, the situation in Gaza is absolutely catastrophic, and that's why we need the violence to stop. We need an immediate ceasefire, and that is why Canada fully supports the proposal by the President of the United States. We need to take a chance on peace, and along with our allies, we're following very closely what my colleague just mentioned, because our position has been clear when it comes to arms export, and we'll take decisions accordingly. Thank you so much.